So these are the properties of algebra that we're going to be using throughout all of math analysis in our exploration of advanced algebra. The commutative property. Please notice the spelling of a commutative here, C-O-M-M-U-T-A-T-I-V-E. It's the same, it has the same root word as commute, and it means that we're going to C-O, change order. The commutative property applies to addition and it applies to multiplication. So here's an example for addition. 3 plus 4 is obviously equal to 4 plus 3. We can change the order and it does not change the sum. We could say 10 plus x plus 2y is the same as 2y plus 10 plus x. CO, change order. We can change the order and it does not change the sum. The commutative property also applies to multiplication. 3 times 4 is equal to 4 times 3, or 5xyz is the same as zx times 5 times y, even though that's kind of crazy to look at. But those two products have the same answer. Commutative property does not apply to subtraction or division. Associative property. The associative property, a synonym for an association is a grouping. And when you think about a grouping, you need to be thinking about parentheses. So the associative property also applies only to addition and multiplication. We can regroup and get the same sum or product. So this time we'll go with 3 plus 4 plus 5 is equal to 3 plus 4 plus 5. So even though the order is maintained, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, the groupings are changed, and thus this would be 7 plus 5, this would be 3 plus 9, 12 equals 12. So we can change the groupings and we still get the same sum. Same thing with multiplication. I'll go 2 times 3 times 10. We'll group together the 2 and 3. On the other side, 2 times 3 times 10. Because of order of operations, this would be 6 times 10, which is 60. This would be 2 times 30, which is still 60. So we can change the grouping in addition and multiplication and still have the same sum and the same product. The associative property only applies to addition and multiplication, not subtraction and division. The distributive property, I'm sure everyone is very aware of what that is. Just very quickly, the distributive property is multiplication over addition or subtraction. So if we have 10 times the sum, x plus y minus z, that 10 is going to get distributed through those parentheses and become 10x plus 10y minus 10z. That is multiplication over addition or subtraction. So just one other quick. So if we have, and we'll say negative 2 times 3 plus 5, obviously this means the same thing as negative 2 times 8 by order of operations, which is negative 16. But just as a reminder here, even if we are able to combine like terms inside the parentheses, we still could use the distributive property, and we would get negative 2 times 3 is negative 6, negative 2 times 5 is negative 10, and a negative 6 and a negative 10 is still negative 16. So it works either way. The distributive property is multiplication over addition or subtraction. And then finally is the identity. And we don't say, oh, this is the identity very often, but we use the identity quite often when we are solving, when we are renaming a fraction, when we are simplifying. So we have two different identities. We have the additive identity And we have and here comes the biggest word in math, multiplicative identity. And the additive identity is just 0. If I add 0, I don't change the value. So 6 plus 0 is 6. 6 plus x minus x is still 6. Why? Because x minus x goes to the identity, which is 0. Now, multiplicative identity is one we are going to use an extreme amount. So I'm going to put like asterisks and flowers and hearts and smiley faces around this one because we are going to use this one a lot. The multiplicative identity is any term that is equal to 1. This is critical right here. The multiplicative identity is any term that is equal to 1. So I'm going to like super zoom in on it here because we're going to use this a lot. Obviously 6 times 1 is 6. But what about 6 times x over x? That's 6x over x. Guess what? X over x is equal to 1. 6 times 1 still equal to 6. But we have renamed this fraction. And we will be renaming fractions quite a bit in advanced algebra. We do it when we're simplifying, we do it when we're finding a common denominator. In terms of a common denominator, here goes. If I have 2/3 and I multiply 2/3 by 5 over 5, 5 over 5 is equal to 1. That is the multiplicative identity. I can rename this fraction as 10/15. So the multiplicative identity is big and important to know. It's anything, any term, any fraction that is equivalent to 1. So there you got it. Those are the properties that I will speak of by name and that we will use most often this year in math analysis and trig.